the book, the page, the markers. I am going to do the bee in a nice yellow today, and I have chosen Y050, and I'm using the brush tip Ohuhu. I do like to use a flicking motion when I'm coloring fur or hair. Or fuzz. This marker's running out a tiny bit. I'm going to do the wings and then like a really light violet. And when I'm coloring the wings, I do keep it really uneven and very light. I want them to look translucent. So the alcohol marker that I'm putting down is very, very light. And I want them to be kind of streaky, if that makes sense. So now that that's dry, oh, I'm going to color the eye first. I think I'm going to make it a little bit pink. A little bit pink. Or maybe a blue. Let's see. What's this one? And that's really subtle, but it does make it look very nice and fuzzy. And I want the center part here to be really light, making it look like it's three-dimensional. So I'm only pulling this darker yellow into the center, but not all the way. And then with the light yellow, that's when I focus on that center part to really lighten it up. And using these little strokes helps to make it look fuzzy and stripy. And that's one of the reasons I really love grayscale coloring books, because you can, I mean, you don't have to shade and highlight with the colored pencils. You can just use the alcohol markers because the shade's already there. But it is fun to add in your own. I am going to add a little bit of colored pencils to the wings to make them look a little more iridescent. And I'm going to start out with a little bit of blue, and I'm really going lightly and holding the colored pencil almost on its side and just transferring a tiny bit of that color over very unevenly. And that looks very pretty. And I'm going to use a yellow. And again, it's just to add a few little shiny spots on these wings. I'm really not putting a lot of color down. But it does make a difference. Look at that. Getting up close, you can really see the three-dimensional effect that the Grayscale books provide. And when you add that color on top, doesn't it look like a real bee? It's so pretty. It's so pretty. So I've chosen 2 colors for the rest of the page. Actually, just the leaves is going to be this green, which is the G240. And the flowers I decided to do in this really pretty, it's almost a red. It's called Caladium Red. This is a beautiful green. I have to remind myself sometimes to slow down. And I find sometimes if you're close to that line, if you flick inwards, it kind of, I don't know if it's a mental thing, but it seems to help a little bit. But you can see how that red just went right to the line there. That is a gorgeous color. I don't think I've done red flowers in my bee book yet. So this is so nice. And you guys, wait until I shade and highlight the leaves and this flower. It will look so pretty. But again, like I said before, if you just want to color with your markers or your colored pencils, you don't need to shade and highlight with these books. And for me, that's fun too. can see I'm being really careful around the legs and the details that I've already colored on the bee. So I'm really just kind of dotting or patting the ink in nearby so it'll kind of sink close to it but not cover the details there. And I can always go over those like little hairs with either a gray or a black colored pencil, and that will help to kind of define that as well. After I've done coloring coloring the flower, that would probably be a good idea. So I used two different colors of kind of a light beige, and I wanted it to look three-dimensional, so I've kind of done a semicircle. Oh, I've got blue all over me. A semicircle along the bottom to make it look like it's curved with the darker shade, and then, pardon me, where the highlight would be kind of in the center at the top, I've used a lighter color. So I will do the same with that one as well. Oh, I didn't do the antennas. I will do those using probably one of my acrylic pens afterwards. So I'm not going to worry if I get some red in those. I think I will add a little bit of green there. once I'm done this part, and I'm trying not to have it run, so I'm not quite going to the edge with the marker, just because I don't want it bleeding into the other part of the image. So, whoops. Just get to know your markers a little bit. If you are using alcohol markers for these images, it really helps you to know where and how much pressure you should be putting. If you should just be dabbing it a little bit, that sometimes helps. Okay. So now again, I'm going to use the darker beige in a semicircle along the bottom. And I learned how to shade like this when I took folk art painting classes years ago. Years ago. And here's a lighter color. Now for the centers of these, I will be adding details with a gel pen. I think I'll use some white. Let's add a tiny bit more here. You can see where some of the red has kind of bled in, but that's not a big deal. I will be covering that up as well. And you can add layers of this darker color. For the petals, I've decided to use two colors to create the shadows. I'm going to use this carmine red and a brown. I'm using the Amazon Basics pencils, which I absolutely love. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of the red first, and then I'm going to add some shadows with the brown. I do want it to still be red, but I'm finding that it's not creating as much of a shadow as I would like. So I will use the brown to really accentuate any shadowed areas. And I am following kind of the lines from the pattern, and then you can really actually see the difference when you add the colored pencil in. And just think about anywhere that an object in front would be creating a shadow. So that's what I'm doing here. I want the bee to really be on top of the flower. So I'm giving it a bit of a shadow along the legs and the body here. And anywhere actually that the petals are going to be overlapping each other. So that's a fun tip. And it does actually add quite a bit of dimension to the page. Oops, sorry. When you start adding in these shadows and the highlights. And if you've seen me color before, you know that when I am using the alcohol markers, that I do really like when the alcohol marker isn't saturating the image. It really does make it look natural. Okay, now I'm just going in with a little bit of this brown just to create a little bit more of a shadow. And you don't have to worry about some lines that show up. I am going to be actually highlighting, and then I'm going to be blending everything together with a blending tool. You can use a colorless blender pencil. It's similar to the alcohol marker colorless blender in that it just blends the colors together. Let's give that a little bit of a shadow there. That's looking really pretty. You can see the difference between the two flowers already. This looks like the center of the flower is really deep inside and that the petals are almost folding out. And that's all because of just adding a little bit of these shadows. Okay, so while I'm on this one here, I'm going to start by adding a little bit of highlights. How do I like this pink? It's not too bad. I'm not going to add a lot, but I am going to add a tiny bit along some of the edges. Pardon me. And if you are unsure about where to add any of your shadows or your highlights, I suggest using reference photos. You can, I mean, it's so easy to pull something up on Google now. I have done that for some of my realistic coloring books. Because I'm, you know, not sure what color a cat would be. So when I was coloring the cat, I did use a reference photo and it helped immensely. It really did. Okay, that's looking very pretty. And just add a couple in here. And I do like to add some extra highlights along some of the petals that are very much standing out in front of the others. So like this one here, add a little bit more even down into the closer to the center. And even this one. I wouldn't do it on everyone, but on all of them, but I am going to do it on a couple. And this one here. Lovely. And before I blend, I am going to blend the whole image once I'm finished, but I am going to do all of the colored pencil first. Now, with this brown, I'm going in right along the base in that semicircle again, and I'm creating even more of a shadow. And you can play around with this too. If you wanted to add some gray, that would be nice as well. Or let's see, maybe even a little bit of this dark brown that I used along. Ooh, that's pretty. That really defines it. And I'm just right where it's meeting that bottom. I'm giving it a little extra shadow there. You don't need a lot to make a huge impact. Okay, now I'm going to go in with this lighter yellow and just hit some of this little dots in the middle. And again with this one, I don't know how much of the white is going to show, but it really does look dimensional. And I don't like how red that is, so I'm going to go over that little part with the white and then the brown again. I'm trying to disguise it a little bit. That's better. That turned out so pretty. Oh, I forgot to do the brown to make this nice and dark along the center of these petals. Will just make it really look like it's deep. Makes it look three-dimensional and just gives it extra depth. Is that what I said earlier? I said depth twice. That's beautiful. And then I like adding this dark brown in almost outlining this bottom part here. Just makes it really pop out on the page. Let's use this yellow. And the white. The white doesn't do much on this color. It's so light, but oh, that one did. That one didn't do too bad. My friends, I am going to bed now, but I will continue in the morning. I'm going to leave my colored pencils out and we will check back in tomorrow and I will finish shading and then do the flowers here, these little snapdragons in the background. And I think I'm going to color that leaf there. I think I'm going to make this a leaf and I'm going to make it green. Then the background, I might do, I'll have to actually think about that. I'm not sure what color I want to do the background, but really, really happy with this page so far. And I'm loving this color for the flowers. Anyway, stay tuned and I will see you in the morning. Welcome back, everyone. We are going to finish this page this morning. I'm just going to put pencils over here to the side of it. And I'm going to start with the colored pencils on the leaves. And same as before, I want to try to add shadow behind the actual flower to make it look like it's dimensional, three-dimensional. Might actually use a little bit of gray there as well. Let me see where my gray pencil is. That's a light gray. Really should pull out my book. Let me go get my organizer. That's not gray at all. A lot of brown. Oh, what's this? Dark chocolate. Let's try a little bit of the Amazon color pencil in black. I do want this to stand out quite a bit. This is not bad at all, actually. Just adding a little bit on top of that green. That looks pretty nice. I'm also going to use maybe a light green. This is apple green. And I'm just going to add a few strokes over top just to bring out the color a little bit. Almost like a highlight, but just adding a little bit of a different color green. And when you are working with colored pencils, it is so easy to change the tone of your markers by adding a tiny bit. You can see the difference between this area and this area. And it's really just taken a few strokes of another color to create that difference. Oh, yes. Okay, I'll keep going here. The dark green first. I still really, really love this red color for the flowers. So happy with that. And the light green again. And maybe a tiny bit of the black just along the edges here. I think I'm also going to add a tiny bit of shadow just along the underside of the bee on top of the flower. I had added shadow in the red, but I do want to just create a little bit more of a shadow underneath the legs and the belly and on the bottom side. So I'm not going to shade the top with the black, just shading underneath what would be the bottom of the legs. That looks better. And I might actually, yeah, sorry, I'm kind of sidetracking here, but I think I'm going to go over the bee and add black in where I have colored over the darker part of the image, and that will kind of put that really dark color for contrast back into the fuzzy part of the bee. So that does look better. It helps it to stand out a little bit more. Okay, I'll come back to that in a minute. Easily distracted. So again, I'm going to use the dark green. And I think last night I said I was going to color this part in the green as well. I'm going to make this a great big leaf. So let's do that now, and then I can shade and highlight. I guess I could have made it also a flower petal, but I think it will be nicer as just a big leaf. Okay. Maybe down here. Let's just do all this green here. Okay. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to go and add in some black details with my colored pencil. And oh my gosh, what a difference that makes. Absolutely love this book. It makes me excited for spring. So I'm just going over anywhere that the image had really dark areas that I colored over with a lighter colored pencil, because it does get lightened a little bit. So I just want to darken some of those spots. Actually, even go really lightly to make this a little bit more of a shadow. That adds quite a bit, actually. Oh, lovely. I don't want to take away from the yellow, but I want to accentuate it. So adding in some black really does that, actually. And if you're not sure if you like anything, if you're coloring with the colored pencil, you can erase or correct. I wouldn't say you would be able to take that color right off, but you would be able to remove some of that colored pencil and rework it with a new color. And I still need to do these antenna. Okay, I'm not going to do too much more of the shading here until I'm done the flowers. I will keep that black color out. So I actually switched up the color that I want to use for the flowers up here and kind of down around the wing here. And I will be using the B120. And I'll just show you what it's going to look like here. I think it was a much better choice than some of the really almost turquoise. This is more like a sky blue, but I think that would be, it's a little bit more muted than the other blue that I was going to use. So I think that will be a good fit for the page. So here I go. I'm going to color the flowers in behind the wings here and down into this area. And actually, I'm going to maybe add some blue here because this looks like it could be the beginning of this plant. So I will kind of tidy that up in a second, but that feels a little bit better to me. And I really like mixing the colors together. Was it this one? So even though I did put the colored pencil down, just gonna add some of that green back on top and even up into some of these lower petals. To give them some of that kind of new growth look. And you can have fun with where you put your colored pencil, creating shadows and just different shades of that blue in different spots. And I've also picked out a really nice green that I'm going to do for the highlights. Or sorry, a really nice green, not a blue. And then I cannot wait to show you guys the magic of blending. This feels like it's a little bit better with the green over top. And it doesn't have to be on all of them. I kind of imagine that closer to the top, it's not as green. And again, if you want reference photos, I mean, Google is a great resource for that. So I'm really not adding a lot of the green as you get further to the top. And maybe I'll add a little bit of a light blue. No, that's not going to show. How about a white? In just some spots here. That does lighten it up quite a bit. So for the background, I've decided to use Y110, which is a very, very light gray yellow, it's called grayish yellow. So I'm just going to do a little bit of the background, and I'll just make it not white. Oh, that's quite a pretty difference, actually. It softens it up a little bit. And since this is a nice light color, I'm just going to use it to lighten up some of the over inking that was done in some of these spots. If you know what I mean? Where it's bled a little bit. That looks really pretty, actually. I'm going to add some highlights with my acrylic marker, my Posca. And I'm just going to add in some, will that work? Need a thicker one. I will save this one for the highlights down below, however. Let's see. This one might be better for adding some dots in. Yes. I'm going to keep the white ones really on the top side of this flower center and maybe a little bit into that red. Now a black. Let's see. Oh, there's my, I have a nice Sharpie acrylic marker. These are the creatives, they're called. And I'm just going to add along this bottom part. It's almost like light and dark. I want it to be creating that shadow along the bottom, very subtly. And now I'm going to use, I think this Ohuhu one's pretty good. So is the jelly roll. Let's see which one will, I think, dot better. Maybe this jelly roll. And I'm going to do the same thing with the gel pens. You kind of do have to tap it right up and down really lightly. You don't want to wreck it. And it's just adding a teeny tiny bit of a, like a sunshiny highlight. And I am going to add some of these yellow dots throughout these flowers, flower petals over here, just to make them look like they're like flower centers, I guess. Stamens. And plus it just looks pretty. It just gives it a little bit of extra life. I don't even know if you guys can see them really well. I will zoom in and show you afterwards as well how it looks. And maybe will these show up at this? The Ohuhu gel pens, I don't know if it's because I have them stored. Look at them stored upside down, so they should still work quite well. And I'm just going to add a tiny bit of this gel pen in spots along the back and then kind of smudge it out a bit. I don't want it to be too harsh, but I'm just depositing a tiny bit of color. Just to give it a little extra highlight. And if you want to go over some of your flowers and add like a little bit of this color in there on top, just in some highlighted areas, and then if you pull it down with your finger a bit or up, depending on the direction of the petal, it really gives it a little really extra highlight. And I kind of just roughly follow the edge of the shape of the edge of the petal. And beautiful. Let's do this side because I feel like this one got lost in all the smudging. That's a bit better. I think I am going to add a little bit more of the black just along here. Okay, so starting with the flowers, I love these flowers so much. The color is so stunning and looks really nice with that blue, and the bee is so realistic. It's just so fuzzy and cute. Probably could have done a little bit better job blending these blue flowers and the leaves, but overall I'm really happy with this page. I was thinking about doing something different with the background, but I think it's perfect the way it is. I don't want to add too much more. Really want to keep the focus on those flowers and the bee itself. Thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed my coloring of this page from Blooming Bees. I will link in the description all the supplies and the book that I used today. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.